Call the Board of Works meeting to order. Turn your mics on, guys.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's a little fast right now. It's just now 6 o'clock. Phyllis would have roll call, please.
Craig Koshaw.
Here.
Bill Carba.
Here.
Ken Lang.
Here. You all emailed a copy of the minutes from our November 7th meeting. And before we have a motion to approve them, I think Barb pointed out to me that in those minutes, it refers to our next meeting as being on November 22nd, and it actually should say November 21st today. So,
You're fired.
No, she isn't.
I told her that's the first mistake I ever knew her to make.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Geez, how did you mess that up, girl?
It's only off by a day.
I would make a motion to pass the minutes on the corrected date.
Yep.
Motion and a second.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you. And now for the agenda. It's a little bit lighter this evening than normal. First thing I have up is a continuation of discussion on Riverside Center rental agreement for events with alcohol. And Melissa has revised a little bit from what it was last meeting. Craig and Bill, if you want. The difference was, help me out here, Craig, you emailed it to us today, I think. It was about the having the sheriff's department work there. They require a minimum of 2, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't that right?
Yeah, 2 officers.
Yeah. So that was changed on here from having an officer to requiring to have 2, because that's what the sheriff's department requires.
Okay. That's the only real difference.
I believe so.
We checked on additionally insured on the what's it called? Host liquor liability if they choose to have liquor, and it's available.
Did you see if Melissa's in her office? We could use her in here for this part. Yeah, call her in here if you want.
And found available 2 different insurance types. They can either get a rider on their homeowner's insurance, and if they don't have homeowner's insurance, they can get a policy which is called TULIP.
Called what?
TULIP. It's the acronym Tenant Utility Liability Insurance Protection.
Mm-hmm.
And I broke down the fees. I got one of those to take over there, and they have that available at with the new updated rates at the Riverside Center. I gave that to Ryan Green and Chris Kroll.
Turn that mic on.
So I think we've covered pretty much everything that we've asked on this to be available to sign it or go ahead with it.
Since the last version of this, the only thing changed was that part about the police officers, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
All of us require 2 officers, and I spoke with Ryan Green at Riverside today, and we did simplify the payment of those officers, that the renter, when they rent the facility, they'll do a deposit check, they'll do a check to pay the remainder of their rental, and then they'll do a third check. It'll be specifically from the renter to the police agency.
Covering it.
Direct.
Yes.
Can we put in there?
One less check that Ryan would have to accept and rewrite.
Can we put in there that as time and the officers' fees go up over time, that it's just whatever the current fee is, so we don't have to continue coming back to this ordinance or continue to charge $50 per hour per officer? Can we just put a little stipulation in there with that?
I don't see why not.
Yeah. Or
It's kind of like a...
otherwise, that way we don't have to...
With basically an
Just
escalator.
an escalator clause that if the fees for the officers go up, we just go with current fees, whatever the year. You know what I mean? It'd be like a mileage, whatever the...
Yeah, it goes up and down, whatever.
They follow the federal guidelines for... We just follow the department's
The recommendation
hourly
of
fee.
the police department.
Correct. So we don't have to revisit this every time. You agree with that?
Yeah.
Is it very simple to change?
Well, do you take the 50 out, or do you
That's
just
what
put
I
it
was
in with the...
You could say it's also responsible to pay the officers
The going rate?
officer's hourly fee per officer's hourly fee. You could just say it's also the responsibility of the renter to pay for 2 officers per event at an hourly rate
Determined by...
determined by the sheriff's department or whatever.
And
So-
Ryan can always know what that rate is.
Uh,
and
which-
call
Peter
people.
Ryan should check on what...
Yep.
So that he can tell people what that is.
So we don't have to
That way we don't have to amend this
Well, I
in a
don't
year or
even
two.
agree with the 2 officers. If Decatur Police will put 1 officer there, why, to me, 2 officers is overkill. I mean, granted, the sheriffs have to have 2 officers, but... Well, they may have a policy that requires it. I understand that, but
Greg and Lenny?
if we just want 1 officer out there, why would...
Pardon?
The text from Jeremy this morning, I believe, said the sheriff's department
I think it did too.
required...
Right. I understand, but to me, that's overkill. On some events. I mean, why have 2?
Okay, we're talking about this policy for Riverfront, or Riverside Center. The county sheriff's department has recommended 2 officers per event.
The sheriff reserves require 2 officers, no matter what the size of the event is.
That sounds right for reserves, yes. I guess it depends on the size of the event. It's usually a good policy to have 2, because you never know what you're getting into.
You can have 1 inside, 1 outside.
Or 2 inside, but you have 2 available, 1 to help each other in case there's a problem or something. Especially when there's alcohol being served. That's...
I think the visibility of an officer would curtail any excessive drinking or
Yeah, it
whatever.
does. It does.
And to me, some events, if it's a smaller event or whatever, to me, 2 officers is overkill. I mean, that's my only comment. I mean, I think we'd be better served if somebody wants to have the event and can get a hold of Decatur Police Department, and we only require 1 officer. You can see how big the event is, and then you may say, I think 2 officers would be required.
Yeah, I mean, it could be an option, but I understand how you're looking at it, Bill, but also too, that, anytime you need an officer for a reason, that means it could be for whatever reason. I realize the presence, but if the presence doesn't help and an officer has something that he has to take care of himself, we should have some.
Plus, we got a quicker response with the Decatur. I mean, if a police officer from Decatur was doing the event, I think we'd have a quicker response if he was in need of help.
They have that in there.
Usually when an officer needs help, he needs a raise.
I don't know. Yeah. You guys are the authority. I'm just kind of. I'm just thinking of.
There, okay, and I understand the understanding that you have, but.
I'm thinking of a small family gathering where they'd like to have a little alcohol.
I can't disagree.
And they have 50, 60 people.
In the past, it was 0 to 75, 1 police officer, 76 plus guests, 2 police officers. I mean, if you're having a family reunion over and you get 25 people,
Yeah.
you need 2 cops there? Or?
No.
No.
Okay.
In fact, I could even say 1 to 50 versus 1 to 75.
And if somebody wants to do the event and they don't want to have 2 officers there and they'd rather save the $50 an hour,
But what if...
they'd have to get a hold of a Decatur police officer or Decatur to have them come and do it.
So they call Decatur. Decatur didn't have anyone available.
Well, then
So then they got to go to the county, and they have to get 2.
yeah.
How are you going to word all that in here?
You just say that they're required to have a minimum of 1 police officer present. That way, if there's nobody on the Decatur force available and they have to go to the sheriff, and the sheriff requires 2, they're going to have to hire 2. I'm not saying that's necessary in a small event, but you could word it that way if that's what you're thinking. hate to throw a monkey wrench into it, but
I don't want to delay it anymore.
No, I
Make sure we
understand
get it
that,
done.
but I know
Well,
some groups don't want to pay $100 an hour.
Yeah, they're paying, they're gonna pay
If they
$300.
don't want to pay it,
They
then,
shouldn't rent the facility.
yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
It's gonna be $300 to use the facility for a minute, you gotta have it for at least 3 hours.
Small groups.
It's gonna be 300, it's gonna be 300 more for the police.
Yeah.
I mean, everywhere we've gone, everything that we've ever rented, it's always been 2 officers, regardless of what we have, or what we've been to or organized, whether it's been out of town or in town, or not in town, but out of town, like Wells County, this could
What?
be it.
Yeah.
Tripped over my feet.
California Parade night.
Yeah.
But you didn't have that on the last time I saw you.
Don told me I had to keep it on, half-cast.
So, still got your trigger fingers on that.
Officer's hour going rate,
Yeah.
going
The
rate,
current-
instead of a $50,
current
we just say
hourly
the
rate.
current rate.
Well, yeah, you can do that, yeah.
That way if it escalates, you just...
I guess we
Ron
do have
will know
in
what
here
that
where it
is.
says officers on duty must be with the Adams County Sheriff's Department or Decatur Police Department. So that's kind of leaving us the out of how many, if it's,
I mean, here, I mean, you can work this several ways. They can get their own security if you'd like, but you guys are the ones who are liable for anything that happens, so, it's like insurance, it's a crapshoot. It's like, who's going to be more qualified to handle a situation? Is it a police officer, or is it somebody security, or just somebody in the family, what I'm saying? So, and because it's outside the scope of actually working for the city, it's, a private hire kind of thing, so it's like, I don't know about the $50. I mean, we go up and down on that stuff all the time, so, well, they're charging this, so we're gonna charge this, or we're gonna charge time and a half, or we're gonna charge, whatever it would be outside our normal hours, so, I would quite honestly just go with the highest paid time and a half officer, and I don't think that reaches $50. Now, somebody may whip me over this one, but I see nothing wrong with $50, but again, too, I think to be fair, if somebody was working anyway and they were working overtime, they'd get time and a half, so I say go to the highest rate of 2.5, or time and a half, whatever that rate is at the time. And that could be who's ever at the top of the scale, because it could be anybody from him on down that's working.
So $50 would cover it.
Yes, oh, yeah. I think right now, the top of the scale is $30-some an hour, so.
I think what I'd like to see is Riverside rented out for those type of events. But if I'm deterring it by doing this, I don't want to do that. If everybody's comfortable with 2 officers there for 25, 30 people, I don't care. I think that's a big
because of the size
expense.
of the venue, I think you're okay at where you're at. If it was something like along the lines of the depot or something like that, it's a different story.
Hey.
When you got the capability of having a mass amount of people, I see nothing wrong.
Yeah, you go ahead.
$50 an
I can
hour
retract
and
that.
2 officers.
I mean, realistically, I mean, I appreciate what you're saying, Bill, but, I mean, if you think about the cost of just using the facility, apart from the police officer cost, I don't think you're going to have many groups of 25 that are going to be booking
That's what I'm saying.
that
because of
venue
the size of the
for
that small of
a party. right?
Okay.
So,
People like a reception type or
Like
something.
with the depot, we had to start somewhere, and we tweaked as we went along. So we might need to spend 6 months or a year to see the volume of people, the parties that are running it, and maybe revisit the police costs and the policemen that need to be private. And we could always come back to change those things if we needed to.
Okay, so let's
I just think that, again, any time alcohol's involved,
Mhm.
okay, because you have anything from somebody getting out of control to underage to, you name it, and most of the time, they're not gonna take care of it themselves. They're gonna say, hey, would you take care of this?
Well,
you could leave it at
You've also
$50 an
got-
hour, subject to annual adjustment, and then leave it up to,
or we could
Well,
just put
if there's an
current
annual
rate-
adjustment-
We could put current rate of officers. And we could have them call in for a current rate. I'm just saying, so we don't have to continue to come back and back and back, just put whatever the going rate.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think, if you want to establish an hourly rate, and Greg's saying that 50 is going to cover anybody at time and a half,
Right.
you could just say $50 per hour per officer per year event, subject to annual adjustments. And
Okay,
and
that's
then,
fine.
then he can find out what that might be.
Right.
And if it gets adjusted in a year from now, I don't think we have to bring it in
I
front of
just-
the board.
I just
We
don't
just make
wanna-
it.
No, it doesn't have to come
Yeah,
out.
it says that. You just make
Let
that-
them just,
No.
let them just go with whatever the rate is.
Adjustment.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we don't have to,
So let's leave the 50 in there, but add the, with annual adjustments possible. And
I guess the only time we'd want to bring this in front of the board again is that if we see that something needs to be changed to keep these two places rented, that we're not deterring people from renting, so.
Yeah.
We want to do that, because I think that's our important thing is,
And we'll rely on Ryan to give us feedback from
Yep.
people who are renting. and-
exactly, somebody's going to say, geez, I'm not going to rent that, if I have to pay $100 an hour for a police officer.
Okay, we'll go with that. Lenny, did you have any comments? Just quietly sitting and listening.
So we'll stay with 2 officers?
Let's keep the 2 officers at $50 or, yeah.
yeah, you're right, I think it's 300.
And, yes.
The rent was is there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Next thing I'm going to take up would be the termination of our stormwater agreement with Adams County Soil and Water Conservation District. We had a contract with the Soil and Water Conservation District to use Tim Graff as with an interlocal agreement with the county to do our stormwater management, and Tim has accepted a job elsewhere, and with that done, Bergdahl has assumed all those responsibilities. He actually was overseeing Tim Graff as it was. So Phyllis, is there any official form or anything that's going to make...
I got it.
Okay.
I ran this by Mark Burry. Mark said it looked good. So it's termination of the interlocal agreement. Basically, it acknowledges that the agreement will terminate effective October 30th, which is the last day that Tim was effectively employed by the county, and therefore he's no longer available to provide the services that were to be provided under the original interlocal agreement. The city's already paid for the first 3 quarters plus a third of the last quarter, which covers through October 30th. The county accepts that as payment in full. So what this does is basically terminates the agreement, acknowledges that both parties have fulfilled their responsibilities under the agreement, and releases each party from any further responsibility as a result of the termination. It will be approved by the Board of Works as well as Common Council. This will then be submitted to the County Board of Commissioners and County Council for their approval, as well as Randy Rowe as the Director of the Adams County Soil and Water Conservation District. And then this will actually get recorded because the original agreement had to be recorded as well.
You need a motion or you need?
Need a motion to approve termination agreement, and then the board needs to sign it, and then I'll present this to council as well.
Make a motion to terminate this contract.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to terminate the stormwater agreement with Adams County Soil and Water Conservation District.
You're going to sign it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Then I have one question. Have we contacted the state and let them know our intentions?
Don?
That
I assume they're aware of it.
Does IDEM know that you're now the man?
They do that
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all good to go, Bill.
I don't want to delay it if we don't get it done.
Good.
They'll take it over.
I know they can be,
Say, we'd rather talk to you.
Yeah, they have, actually, I think...
yeah, ever since I read the red sheet,
Yeah.
When you hand me the pen, and I'll sign them, okay?
you're kind of
Brother Bill.
pushy. Wow. Pass the pen.
Do you need a pen?
I've got a pen in my briefcase, but I don't. It comes to a meeting and I have a pen.
Just one copy?
No, there's 4.
Oh, there's 4.
Yeah.
Plenty of copies.
If there's a problem, I'll get a freaking pen. I've got one from Chris Moore, my financial advisor. It's rather costly.
It's an expensive pen.
Okay. Don't look so glum, Clyde. Smile.
Smile.
Where's the
Al, Bill's talking to you.
Yeah.
You were zoned out.
You look pretty serious.
Yeah.
Bill said, smile, and you just sit there.
You could be like Mary. Mary smiles.
Okay.
All right, 1, 2, 3, and you got the 4th one right there. Okay,
Okay.
that's that.
Okay.
Anything more on that?
Not on that.
Okay.
Will I get a copy?
Oh, there's 4 of them, you should get plenty.
Yes, we don't, until we hear it all signed.
Oh, you're getting the county.
Yeah, the county's got to sign it.
Kevin? Going to discuss the 5-year capital improvement plan for our water utility. Council members, if you guys are free, probably ought to sit in on this. You got one of those too?
I do.
Put one over there at Wilds, too. Well, Kevin, you want to explain all this to everyone?
Not going on.
Yeah.
This is basically for, well, a lot of it is for Crow or Wanda that's doing the rate study for the bond issue that was most likely going to have some new water plant projects. You may want to know if there was any other projects that we wanted included with that bond issue. So we picked out a handful have been on the list to do for a couple of years now.
That we just haven't been able to get
Been
budgeted.
able to get through, yeah, so,
And when you say we, you're talking you, Jeremy, Don,
yeah,
basically?
yeah.
Okay.
So this lists all by year, which project we'd like to do, what we'd like to pay for out of the general fund, what we'd like to see added in the bond issues. And the second page, that's from Mark Sullivan from Midwestern, it kind of breaks it down as far as engineering costs, bond counsel, and rate consultants, all that.
It's a big number.
It's a big number. And this was pretty much required to kind of put together,
The final rate study, yeah. And I asked Crowe to also give me 2 options as far as with the water plant, rehab in Winchester, and rehabilitation of the Burn water main as one, and then add in these other projects as another to see what kind of effect that has on the rate study.
and the things that you added in were the, in Homestead, the main, water main replacement, High Street water main replacement, County Road 500 North main extension,
And that would run from Oak Road to Deer Run. And the main purpose of that is to create a loop, so when you shut off one section, if you shut off like on 13th Street, you shut off that whole section of town. If you create that loop, it still leads from the other way. It's still off. And it's the same with the Winchester main extension. Would go from Canterbury to think it's Tigers Trail. You go under the river down.
That's the Winchester Road one?
So that's the same thing, if you shut off 13th Street, be across about for Schiffer, that shuts off that whole northeast side of town to fix anything right there, so.
And then you have on here
And
for,
the meter upgrade, that's to try to get our system to all radio reads, which would require the meter reader to go out 6 times a month. Probably take a couple hours a day to do that. You can read the whole town in 6 days rather than every day of the month.
and you have that budgeted, so you do a little bit each year, right?
Yeah,
What's
we
that,
would do that
in phases?
in-house as far, and I may not, as far as installation, we do that in-house. So,
So that's just for the meters?
yes, that's just for the cost of the meters.
Mhm.
Because right now,
How many total meters are we talking?
it's over 4,500, and we have about 2,500 already on the radio reads. The others are ones you actually physically walk up and read off the side of the house or the building. So this would be much more accurate. It's easier to detect. If there's a leak, we can run reports on. It'll track each day what the usage is. If there's a spike, we call the homeowner and say, hey, check your toilets, check to make sure something's not going on.
How does he read those, Kevin?
The
The radio.
you can read right from the vehicle.
So in other words, he can drive up and down the streets
A
and,
certain distance from the place, yeah, you can just drive and the radio picks them up as you go.
how would that, if we install all of them, how would that affect his hours? Just kind of curious.
As far as reading meters,
Yeah.
it would cut that way down, 40 hours a week to roughly.
It would all but
We don't know.
eliminate
For
that
sure,
job. It would all but eliminate that person's current job.
That's kind of what I was, yeah, okay.
Well, you said it could be done in 6 days?
Mhm.
Yeah, you basically, instead of...
6 days a month.
We build
Yeah.
6 cycles, so you go out one day,
Each
read
cycle.
the whole cycle, and it would probably take a few hours, an hour to 3 hours roughly to drive that cycle, depending on if there's any that are down.
So that could be done by someone just in the water department, and not somebody as a designated, categorized meter reader.
Good.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, Dan and I went to Angola. Angola recently did the same thing, and it's proven to work for them very well. And we asked them the same question that Bill was asking today. Like he said, meters are just like anything else. You're going to have some trouble. So what that person ended up doing is helping out with service calls, shut-offs, the meters that have problems. That person then has to come back out, schedule the time to get them changed, and so on and so forth.
So he just changes job classification.
Basically.
In other words, instead of having one certain person to do meter reading, they would have to do other functions.
Basically, your meters are like anything else. Once you change them, you're going to have to keep changing
Yeah.
so many years, and you're going to have batteries that die in meters and such that are getting low or they don't read properly. It's not like it's a job elimination. It's just more of a reclassification.
All right. Read job description now.
Correct. So, it was very informative that day when we were up there. Angle is what they actually read. You take out the legs and stuff, they're real similar size. They're all weight values. You take those out of the equation, the numbers they gave was real similar to the amount of customers that we have.
And they had that installed a couple years ago.
Yes, it's been out for a few years. It's the same system. It's a master meter. Very beneficial. You have to keep in mind your meters are your cash register.
Oh, yeah. If they're not reading right, you can be
Sorry to
giving
interrupt, but that's-
No,
giving
that's
away.
You can take your coat off, stay a while.
Yeah.
Sorry, I ran over.
Sorry.
As far as I go, they're much meters, some of these older meters were changed out years ago, but the reading on the front wasn't reset with the meter that was changed in the basement of the whole building, so it's hard to get accurate readings. You don't know if the meter's spinning at the same rate as the read on the outside because they're so big. So this radio system is a lot more accurate than the
Well, I think it's kind of a no-brainer. If we're going to do this bond, it's
Yeah, that kind of
something to
money,
add into it.
not too big a
Right.
percentage.
Yeah.
No, that's not gonna increase it,
No.
that just updates our whole system.
So the elevated tank controls for the water towers, because of the location of the east side plant, the pumping right past the east water tower off Pickaway there, you have to have valves to adjust the level so that one isn't overflowed and the other ones are starved. So this will allow them to all function on the same level. And then the valves behind Courtesy, there's a main that runs behind there that broke.
We know all about that one.
Yeah.
So that would help with that. And that's a minor fix that we do in-house too.
Okay. So what's next, Tim?
Well, I talked to Jennifer Wilson earlier today, and what Jennifer explained is once the board approves the 5-year capital improvement plan, Kevin will get a copy of that down to Crow Horwath. They will then need some additional information from Kevin. She indicated that she would get in touch with Kevin next week, hopefully to get what she needs, and their intent is then to come before council either on December 19th or the first meeting in January with the rate study and the proposal. And, you know, at that point, you're going to have to make a decision whether you want to proceed with their recommendations in terms of the rate increase, because if we're looking at putting in a new treatment plant and upgrading our distribution lines from the Southwell field down in Bern, you're only going to be able to do that with bond revenue. And so the rate study is going to determine what your rate has to be in order for you to be able to bond those projects and possibly these others. So, you know, if you're looking to move forward with that, the sooner you can, you're probably off doing it sooner than later, because the interest rates are projected to go up. And the longer you hold off doing it, the greater the amount of interest you're going to pay on the bond issue. So, you know, nobody wants to raise rates. I'm sure you're going to hear some pushback from people about that, but what I tell people when they talk to me about it is, how long do you want to go without water coming out of your spigot? And I remember a couple years ago when we had the break behind Courtesy, and it shut down businesses in the community. People were scrambling to find sources of water and keeping up with it. So, you know, we take for granted the fact that we have available water that's clean and useful, and we want to keep it that way. So we're doing what we have to do in order to provide that. And it's a protection to the public health and safety. And that's one of your primary functions as city council.
And you have to upgrade, you just can't keep status quo, because these things needed upgraded. I mean, like he pointed out with Angola, 2 years ago they had the meters. How long is the plant here that we're thinking about replacing, how long has that been there? I mean, that plant's, yeah, that plant's been there. I mean, you gotta have, I guess, yeah.
And one thing too, and I don't know whether this would come into play or not, but, you know, ITEM is looking at imposing new requirements with regard to sodium, with regard to some other issues, and so if your new plant is up to date and current, it's probably going to have the capacity to do that, where if you rely on the existing plant, you're going to have to upgrade it anyway in order to meet these new requirements. So you're going to spend money either place. It's just a matter of how you do it.
Any questions from anyone? Kevin, you have anything else to add, or council members, you got anything over here?
I'd say if you need to get these projects done, you might as well wrap it all in one, because I know, for example, High Street, they're down there fixing
All the time.
leaks all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
All that does is cost us money, you just fix one and then the next one breaks.
So you need a motion?
No, need a motion to approve the capital improvement plan.
I'll make a motion to approve the capital improvement plan.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve the 5-year capital improvement plan for the water utility. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thanks. Thanks, Kevin.
See, that's easy, you guys have to do it.
Just want to mention that Micah McWilliams, the gentleman that owns the brick house over here at the corner First and Monroe, has declined an offer from us to purchase that house. And he's just pretty much adamant about it. He says, I'm making about $20,000 a year income off of the rental, so we got to come up with Plan B if we want to get that property.
I saw Reber and Sons over there the other day. What was our offer on the sewer?
We had 2 appraisals. One was $100,000, one was $106,000. So our offer was $103,000.
Did they figure it out?
He wouldn't take
And then-
$103,000?
He wouldn't take $103,000, so then what I did was, we're going to have to put the city's going to have to put approximately $15,000 worth of work into infrastructure to connect that sewer.
Yeah, okay.
So I talked to Tim, I said, could we even sweeten the pot, since he's declined that offer, and add that $15,000 that we were going to spend as an option to purchase, as a side bid, which took our total bid up to $118,000. And he replied back, said, no thanks, we're just going to keep it.
How soon do we have to do this $15,000 project?
I'm sorry?
The $15,000 project?
Oh, on the sewer part?
Can we wait 6 months and call them again?
No, we're under a gun from item to get it corrected.
What about?
And they already had sewer issues last weekend. And that last Saturday morning.
I saw Reber and Sons working on it. Did they get it fixed? Don't know.
I didn't hear anything back from him. I gave him the direction that he needed. I told him to let me know if he had any other questions.
It's frustrating to me, because here's a gentleman that lives clear across the country that has no vested interest in our community whatsoever, who has a house that's, for the most part, blighted. I mean, in the appraisal, we had pictures of the inside of the apartments, and they are not nice. I mean, they're very bad. They're, for the most part, 1 or 2 room efficiency type apartments. But yet, it meets evidently up to the health and safety standards, so it's just frustrating that we can't get him to have any sense of our community and understand that we would like to see that house go bye-bye. You got a comment?
To cover your rear end with IDEM, you really probably ought to have that connection made sooner than later.
Mm-hmm.
Since you did decline it, we do have a really reasonable number from contractor. We actually have 3 numbers. We do have a real reasonable number that would be able to cost savings to us.
Well, he instructed me that Rex Grant is ready to work with us, whatever he needs to do. We just need to get a hold of Rex Grant, and Rex will do whatever needs done on their end.
Okay, so should we go ahead and with the contractor and have that connection made so they can come to it? Because we're going to pick the street up. Our contractor will have to
First Street?
make that connection.
Well, it's already tore up. No big deal there, I guess.
I don't understand.
It would be better to do it now.
Yeah.
Get the
How
tax
did that
and
engineering firm mess that up that we hired?
So it just needs to be connected to our city sewer. It's not
We have
connected.
Let me ask you
we have
a question.
a tap on the sewer main, up behind the sidewalk, and then they have to take it from there. And it's really, really deep. That's why you have to have a, plumber or roofing bill or something like that.
That sewer project that we went all the way around that house, and didn't we hire somebody to do that sewer project?
That doesn't-
And an engineering firm?
That sewer doesn't go
Huh?
They never came across that sewer. That sewer doesn't go where it's supposed to go. Put it to you that way.
Well, I mean,
It goes into the old sand, into the old mine sewer, which ends up in the St. Mary's River.
Yeah, but when you question why that house didn't have any kind of hookup,
What's that?
when you question why that house didn't have any kind of hookup when the new stuff was
They never
being...
crossed it.
When they
I know,
dug north and south, they never
I
crossed the
realize
path,
that,
and they were
but
30
there
have
feet
to be
deep.
one.
But
They
there was...
never crossed it.
Yeah.
And that thought came across everybody's mind when they did not cross it, because they were super, super deep through there. So then we started quizzing ourselves as to where is it? Well, there's two different taps that come out of that hole. And one, we believe, is in that old combined sewer.
But by the time you figured it out, the project was
The
over.
project was, yeah, we were to that point. But it was a later part of the project that...
Still seems like as you're going through there and you're not getting...
And we had to go through the testing, we had to actually do samples.
And
Our
now-
sampling process takes a while, and then that's when it showed up that it was positive coming out of that combined sewer.
Yeah, it's still puzzling.
So,
Well, it's such an old property, it really isn't in the legal type that it's supposed to be in.
It's a 117-year-old property. Steve, we're just talking about the brick house over here. He declined our offer. So, that was a very generous offer. Yeah. So, I just wanted to make that a matter of record, and is it okay if they go ahead and proceed with tapping that in there?
Yeah, I'd say, I'll make a motion for that, yeah.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you. And Jeremy, you want to talk about a salt box to be purchased for the street department?
in 2018's budget, we included a new salt box. What had happened to, we have two now, what had happened to our oldest one is during the 224 project, last winter and all the shuffling around and the detours and all the crazy ways that we had to salt. Early one morning, Jeremy Jones had a little minor mishap. And then the back of the salt box kind of twisted it just a little bit. It is still usable temporarily, but it's on its last leg. I do have the money in 18's budget to do so. What I'm requesting tonight is authorization to go ahead and order a box so we have it for this year. You're probably still 30 to 45 days away before you would actually get one. I have three quotes on this, one from W.A. Jones out of Columbia City for $12,782. The second one is from Monroe Truck Equipment, $13,220. And Godwin Truck Equipment, $13,867.
Who was 12,782? Who was that?
W.A. Jones.
W.A. Jones out of Columbia City.
Is that the one you want?
That's a good,
Yes, that's
good
a-
company.
That's a stainless steel box, it's what we currently have for our other trucks, so that won't be an issue.
That's a good company.
Okay.
Is that your recommendation?
Yep. It will be paid out 18's budget, I just need a little timing to be able to get it in here before we really need it this winter.
Make a
Salvage
motion to go
value with
forward.
the old one or anything?
But the,
Yeah, there's some.
the lowest price one you want, is that the one you want?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, make a motion to go forward. Go ahead.
Second.
Thank you.
Go for it, Jerry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Would you keep the old one for parts, or,
It's just an old steel box.
so
It's not
And
stainless?
We're going to stainless.
it's disposable?
Yeah. We've got many, many miles out of that.
Yep.
So it's,
Okay.
it doesn't
That's good.
cost anything.
Got a motion from Bill, a second from Craig on that. Barb, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thanks. Tim, that's all I had. Do you have some things for the Board of Works?
I did real quickly on this letter I passed out to you. This is a letter that Kurt Woody had requested that I prepare regarding, his request to get something done on the back side of the property here on the opposite side of Monroe Street.
You're talking the north side of
The north side of the
North
building.
side.
Yes, on the alleyway part, the back part of that building.
Between
is
that
in
and the
bad shape.
granary.
And Kurt had sent a letter out back in July requesting that that be repaired, or that the owner contact him to let him know what was going on and a schedule of when that could be expected. Kurt hasn't heard anything since. He's tried to make contact with the owner, and that's not been forthcoming, so he requested that this letter be prepared, and I've presented it to you for your approval. I've also talked to Craig, and Craig knows this individual and suggested that the board go ahead and approve this, but before we send it out, perhaps it would be a good idea to at least talk to the owner and see if we can't encourage participation that way. If he's not willing to cooperate, then a letter will go out and we'll do what we have to do.
I'll go speak with him.
I agree with that.
Motion to accept it under those terms?
That's the best policy.
Yeah, I would recommend that. I think we owe it to try to work with them first. And I know Kurt's tried to do that. He's just not been receptive.
I'll second.
You have a motion and a second to allow Craig to talk to the individual first, and then if that doesn't work, then we send the letter. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you. What else, Tim? Something on this bill?
Well, that's what I'm looking, whether there's a lot of stuff on the council's agenda. One question I had, Melissa, did they grade in the place, was that signed and sent in, the revised?
Signed yesterday and submitted to Mason.
Okay, all right. Okay. Okay, there's a number of ordinances and at least one resolution that will be acted on in the council meeting, but that's really all I have for the board.
And Bill?
So this is kind of a difficult thing, and since we were talking, Kevin, could you come back up? We had a situation over the weekend, addresses 821 Madison Drive, West Madison. The police officers went in, there was a non-respondent person, and the police officers went in, and the house was totally a mess. So they went ahead and called the Board of Health. Board of Health came in. I see this every day, that homes are, the exterior home is in bad shape. I went up to the doors and I can't even stand to talk to the people because of the smell coming out of the home. I talked to John Baker. He says there's situations he goes in to put meters in and can't even get to the meter because of all the crud and junk and debris. Would it be, as a city, beneficial if our meter installer would happen to see this kind of home layout where they just live in filth? Could we as a city contact the Board of Health and ask them to go in? And this is probably a legal question also. Because I think people just, I'm thinking of the trailer park. We've had situations out there, and we've had other situations within the city that the homes, the people, the way they live, it's a disservice to them, the way they live. I mean, I don't know. I guess this home at 821, I happen to see the pictures of it, and it is actually terrible. It really is. We as a city shouldn't.
Did that, so the health department did then go in and...
Oh yeah, they come down the house, and I've had trouble with this house. over the past 3 years where they just have not. I often say when I go to a home and I cite the home for junk, trash, and debris in the yard, I'd love to, at that point, make an ordinance that the city will go in and, if they're cited for junk, trash, and debris in their yard, the city should go in and check the house out also, because I guarantee you, if their yard's a mess, their home's a mess. And,
Slippery slope, I imagine, though, as far as...
Yeah, and I don't want to volunteer an answer off the top of my head, but I would suspect what we may want to do is contact the Board of Health and find out, if there is an obligation on our part to report something that we observe that goes to the issue of public health and safety. There might be. If that's the case, then it would be appropriate for us to make that call.
I just
If
threw
there's
it
no
out.
duty, it may be a little bit different situation. So,
I guess I think about more, like, I went to one home and there was 2 little kids walking around in their diapers. And like I said, I couldn't I couldn't stand at the door and talk to the lady because of the aroma. And I'm thinking of the little kids that have to live in these conditions. And this home, so at 821, was drug-related. And I think some of these homes are drug-related. And these poor little kids are living in this condition where their parents are disregarding anything and everything, and having their kids live in this condition.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just
and the issue you get into, Bill, is whether or not a city employee is acting, in essence, as an agent of the police and going into a home without a search warrant. In which case, then you get into some issues.
I understand.
Okay, so you got to be a little bit careful about that.
We've noticed people that deliver meals on wheels and things like that run into these situations. Is that one of those, is that the same kind of a situation?
Not necessarily, because they're not acting as a city, as an official of the city. So if it's a private citizen and they observe it, they may be able to contact the police, and that may be sufficient for the police to get a warrant to do a search.
I've delivered meals for the church around Christmas time, and there are situations where I had a ham and my grandson had the box of groceries, and we could not find a place to set it down in the kitchen. I mean, the house was in such condition, so, yeah, it's
So
a shame.
you want to check into it with the health department, Adams County Health Department, and find out some more?
I would talk to them.
I can talk to Kurt, because Kurt's the one that brought the whole thing up on this home and showed me the pictures.
Well, when Bill goes to these places, he's somewhat of he's a code enforcement officer. Is his word worthy
But
of
if he's invited into the home, that's a little different.
standing outside and seeing inside with the smell coming out? That's
I
not...
would need more money to be invited in.
You can contact the police, but Greg, I think the safer route is to literally get a warrant for entry. If you have reason to believe that, typically a warrant is for some type of crime.
Right.
You have reason to believe that a crime is being committed, and unless you're invited in, then it may be a little bit different.
Where's the line on neglect?
That's
tough.
The
It is.
health department make that
It's-
decision. It's really not a police issue.
Yeah.
The health department.
So that's why I say I would talk to the health department, and if they're willing to come out based on observations made, and they have the right then to go in, maybe they do. And that's something I think you ought to check with them. Yeah.
I think it's just like you said, but it has to start someplace. It has to start with a report. The report can then be submitted to the health department. The
Right.
health department, if they see that there's enough for them to go on, even at that point, I don't know if they can go in, but they can go to the prosecutor.
They could go to the prosecutor and get a warrant.
I think things go unnoticed. We had a situation in the fire department, and probably Jeremy can relate to this. We had a home on Elm Street that we lost 3 lives because the fire department could not get through the house. The house was so cluttered that they could not get and find the people to get into the house to take care of it, to find the people, because it was so cluttered. And, you know, to me, that's a shame. And I don't know what the answer is. I'm just saying, I observe this when I'm out there, and I'm sure, and John Baker, I've talked to John, and as soon as I relate to the home that I'm having trouble with or whatever, he says, I couldn't even get to the meter. I had to go back 3 times to ask them to clean it out so I could even get to it. So.
Yeah, and it may be worth looking into with the welfare department or the prosecutor's office, because it may involve children, in which case, you know, it could be a determination that children are in need of services, in which case then the authorities could get involved. So there may be another way to possibly approach it.
I'll go forward with it, but I didn't. I just wanted to, I guess, bring it up because I guess it's, I feel for the people.
Yeah.
I mean,
Especially the kids.
especially.
Yep. Speaking of the trailer park, last meeting, Nick Koss's attorney was here. That's because I guess, you know, word was getting around town that Nick was coming to the meeting or something or other, and I think Nick called his attorney and had his attorney come in case somebody was here to have something to say about him. I know, Craig, like you said, Meals on Wheels delivered out there, and they were very concerned. And Nick called me, and he will be at our December 5th Board of Works meeting, and I would encourage everyone to take a drive through the trailer park, see if it's
Take pictures.
if it's any better than what it was, and what else we'd like to see him do. And
But even a bigger concern, though, is what's inside those.
Oh, yeah?
You know, that's, to me, is becoming a bigger issue than just cleaning up the outside,
so
just like what you were just talking about.
And there's situations out there we've heard, in fact, the mayor heard things that go on out there in the interior. Well, we had pictures of that I couldn't show. That the person actually was living in filth in that condition. In fact, they took a picture of his feet, and his feet were actually black because he was living in that kind of, and the wires were all over his trailer. And to me, this Nick, I appreciate him because he thinks he's doing these people a service, but truly he's not. He's putting them in a terrible position to me.
He's enabling them to really...
Exactly.
Bill, did you want to talk any about the pictures you showed me today of the...
No, I think I want to get everything together before I present that.
Next meeting, maybe?
Well, I don't know. But depends on how much time I put into it.
That's true. Well, it's not quite 7 o'clock. That clock's fast, and I think we're done with the meeting.
Wow.
Have a motion to adjourn. We'll have Jeremy has something.
Alcohol Riverside?
Yeah, we discussed it. And,
Do we have to make a motion or anything on the Board of Works? Or is that a council decision?
We didn't make any motion regarding the Riverside, is that what you're saying?
The alcohol at Riverside?
You approved the form? Is that what you're talking about, Jeremy? Approval of the alcohol form?
Yep.
Craig had concerns at the last meeting about non-for-profits,
Yes.
which we cleared that up. The park board really doesn't want to put all non-for-profits on the paper.
Right.
And fear that we're going to get a lot of fundraising and
Sure.
so on and so forth. So what they agreed to is like the chamber and city and so on and so forth, that that's going to be automatically granted. How they handle other fundraisers is it's a case by case. They have to come in front of the park board, explain what they're doing, so on and so forth.
Go through the permit process?
Correct.
Oh, that's
They
cool.
have no concern whatsoever, you know, with you guys coming out there and then waiving those fees. Then there was one other, I don't know if you discussed before I got here, the officers'
Yeah.
requirements.
Mhm.
So.
We're gonna
that
put it
was
at 2.
something, Yeah.
Yep.
And that is just in case something does get out of hand, there's 2 of them that refuse them.
Barb, we never motioned
We did
to
not have a motion to...
approve
accept
that form?
agreement, Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the revised form that we received today
Oh, I'll second that,
with
yeah.
the new revisions.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you. For a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. We're adjourned until 7:30 for council.